Welcome, everybody, to Collaboration and Community as a vehicle for school choice. We are so excited to be here at the Hybrid Conference, the third annual conference. I'm super honored and privileged to be sitting next to these incredible, sitting next to these incredible women who are just doing phenomenal work. We thank you for being here. We're going to do a very small amount of presentation and then really a conversation. It can be a Q&A or we can circle up. We're happy to do either. So I'm Shireen Radigan. I'm the co-founder of Innovative Educators Network. And I'm also the founder of Colossal Academy, a microschool network. Yeah, whatever you want to do.
I guess I have my mic.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Delina Wallace. I am the founder of AIM Educational Collaborative, and through the efforts of AIM, I have helped to found a local collaborative of education entrepreneurs in the Wichita area, so in Wichita, Kansas. And what I'm so excited about is that the collaboration that happens there has been spreading like wildfire, and like the value add that this brings to the school founders and the education entrepreneurs is so huge that other states and other areas are wanting to do similar things, because collaboration really is powerful and it helps with sustainability. And so that's kind of what we're here to talk about.
And I'm Tony Ferlicciardi, and I co-founded the Innovative Educators Network with Shireen. We also run a program called Surfskate Science. It's a STEAM program in South Florida. Let me go to the next one.
I mean, I think that we're understanding, how many of us here are microschool owners or providers? Okay, do any of you feel alone ever in the work that you do? I think, Carrie, thank you so much for having the podcast, because I think you're able to project out and I'm losing the word right now because I have lunch brain, but you're able to let other people know that you're not alone. And I think that that is really powerful in the network that you're growing, just by being able to listen to people's stories. We live in a metropolitan area, so we are able to be collaborators by forming a group. We meet quarterly. Sometimes it's really focused on like getting our headshots. We're noticing everybody doesn't really have a nice LinkedIn picture or something that could help you to raise more money, right? Or grant writing workshops. Or sometimes they happen to be very informal, and so we go on a boat ride, or we just celebrate each other, end of the year celebration, rooftop, not caviar, but crackers, Ritz crackers and cheese, as close as we can get to that. So families are really looking for new ways to have their education model, education for their children. But really what that means is, if we're going to be providers, we need to be in collaboration and network together, because otherwise it's just not sustainable. We can be large and have a lot of money and have a big network, or we can be independent and really see our visions through, whether that be an amazing Surfskate Science program. It could be a nature school. In our network, we have people who are the Muslim Montessorian as well as the Jewish day school microschool. We have values driven, we have nature driven, we have STEM driven. And so, but what we found is that we all are trying to do something very similar, which is like creating personalized learning. And but we're coming to the same kind of crossroads of loneliness, but also the need for help business-wise.
So yeah, I actually just put this quote up here just because it made me think about why we started collaborating. It's from John Maxwell. If anybody knows who he is, he does a lot of leadership books. He wrote, "Teams make you better than you are. They multiply your value, enable you to do what you do best, allow you to help others to do their best, give you more time, provide you with companionship, help you fulfill the desires of your heart, and compound your vision and effort." So I think as a network, we're able to do this more for each other. And I think, I think the reason Shireen and I started, I'd love to hear Delina's, is we were all starting. We might have been from an education background or have some business background, but this was a whole new space. So, what do we do for permits? Who do we call for this person? We're having a meltdown with a family. And I want to quit today. Talk me out of it, those kind of things. So, we've been operating now for about 7 years, I think. I'm going back and forth. And, on Friday before we came here, we had the city shutting us down. And even though we've been trying to do everything right. So, how do you deal with that? And thank God Shireen was there, and she kind of, our group's separate. It was, just having that support to just, have other people to bounce ideas off of, to remind you that you are valuable when you don't feel like it, and just, you're always learning from each other. So that's a key thing. Delina, why did you start yours?
So a little bit of my history before, well, actually, even now, I'm still a homeschooling mom, but a lot of my efforts and collaboration was working specifically with the homeschooling community and just offering like coffee talks in my home and community gatherings and things like that. And through that process, I kept hearing from these moms that were feeling just so isolated and so alone in their efforts and kind of burnout and that whole thing. And so for about 5 years, I was kind of working with homeschool moms and just offering support, sharing resources, that sort of thing. And then when I started to realize as a school founder, as a micro school founder and a homeschool co-op leader, I was like, I don't know anybody else who's really doing this right now. So unlike Shireen and Tony, who live in the big metropolitan area, I live in a small rural town of Kansas with a total of 160 people. And so from Partridge, Kansas, I'm out there like homeschooling, connecting with all these moms who were like spread out. We're all in all of our tiny little towns across, the county. And I just realized there's not a lot of options here. And I'm looking for more support for my own kids. And so when I started to learn about those who were doing similar things and creating these really great learning environments that were unique, the hybrid models and the homeschool co-ops and things, I was like, okay, I need to meet those people because those are also my people. Like I'm a homeschool mom and I get that and can relate to them, but I'm also someone who's trying to solve problems, offer resources for more homeschool moms. And so I kind of pivoted that toward the school founders once I started to learn about those who were doing similar things and met them for coffee. And then we started meeting on a monthly basis. And I just kept hearing that they felt like they were the only ones doing this before they met with each other. And so that's one of the beauties of this conference and conferences like this, right? We get to be in the same room with people who are doing similar work, and it helps us like see big picture, and it helps us get perspective and to learn from everyone's experience. And so that was kind of the birth of WISE. It was like, okay, we all need to do this. We started with 4 or 5 school founders, and we realized there was a lot of value in that. We all have to be selective in what we invest time in. Our time is limited. We're very busy, so it has to be worthwhile. And we decided to kind of curate the year's program or our monthly meetings and have like a theme for each month so that everyone knew what to expect. They came prepared. Everyone would share resources pertaining to that, or we would have a guest speaker, or more what we have started doing now rather than bringing in a guest speaker is to ask someone within our network because they are the experts, and we want to learn from our peers. And so we're just asking people as they see a topic that they are experienced with or whatever to present that month. So that's kind of just the history of WISE and why we came about, and we can talk a little bit more about how we are effective and involved in our community.
Yeah, this from Richard, for you to really like talk to the person next to you. Is there a time that you collaborated as a community and you had a good result come about it? Is there something any of you can think of a time when your community came together? So whether that's a community of homeschool moms or a community of educators. You have one?
Hi, I'm with SOAR Academy Nebraska.
Yes.
Right now, we are actually helping about 10 different schools, micro schools in Georgia. Our founder, Keisha, some of you might know her, she's doing it at no cost. but also with the marketing accreditation set up and not only in Georgia, but also in different states, one of them in Florida. She helps itself with part of accreditation. On that same line, just this Thursday, a group of homeschoolers, they were reaching out a few months ago for a place to do the first CSRA science fair for homeschoolers. That's it. Well, SOAR actually provided the place for them to do it at no cost, and that was mind-blowing experience for them to learn that a private school was willing to be open for them to collaboration, you know, and that's what we're doing. We're pro school choice, but in the sense that we want to work together and not see each other as a competition, because we realize we all have strengths, and but what we don't really realize most of the time is that there's some always room to improvement, and that's what we need to take advantage of. Where you can help me and I can help you, and then we can see what makes better for all of us. That's something.
I agree. So yeah, so we have a couple of reasons why collaboration is so good, and that she just hit on a few of them. Did you have one? Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm in Atlanta and I'm completely new to all of this. But I was invited to table at a micro school fair, and I didn't know these things even existed. So a bunch of different community micro schools came together and shared space to table. And then, like you said, it wasn't about competition, and it was helpful to know because we've had some families come for like a circle time to see if we were a good fit for them and vice versa. And some of those families, they had needs beyond what we could attend to. So to be at the homeschool, like we already had in our mind where we could refer them to. So like there's a micro school down the hall from us who works specifically with children who are on the spectrum, who also have communication challenges. So like they're very unique needs, and to just be able to know, oh, we can refer them down the hall to the speech therapist down the hall. So we are, with Brave Place Learning Space. So our kids are aged 2 to 6. And we are all on the same floor with a bunch of other micro schools in a church. And so there are a number of resources on the hall. And we found that because we had a number of issues with our location prior, and we were looking for a new space. And I just called someone that I met in the micro school and said, do you know of anyone who has space? She's like, come over here. So it's just been really helpful to have that community when I feel like a fish out of water. Like I've been in education for many years, but not in this niche space. So it's just been a real blessing to me. And I just wondered too, like we've had conversations in my family about moving to a more rural area and just trying to figure out how can I translate this if we decide to move, and to just hear you talk about that experience and kind of think about how it could be possible there, and still that's really helpful. So thank you for sharing that as well. Sure.
Yeah, I think we're super blessed to live in a super diverse community, South Florida. And so for me, you know, there's people doing very different things than I'm doing, from very different backgrounds, and it's amazing to learn from each other. And so I think that's been one great thing for me for collaboration, and we're able to address the diversity of the community. So are there people that are looking for faith-based? I mean, there's all kinds of different options in our area. Are you looking for a place for a kid that has neurodivergence? There's a lady who's a neurologist that teaches elementary schools about brain science. Pretty amazing, you know, or cooking, or so we're able to do all that stuff. And then we're always able to brainstorm together. We do a lot of think tanks, provide support, problem solve. I can call and say, oh no, you know, what do I do? The city doesn't want us meeting here anymore. And, you know, so there's just so many, pluses and positives about collaborating. And then together we're able to adapt to change. So there are a few of us that meet outside a school building, at a park, and we're going through issues with permits and how does the city address that, and being able to adapt together makes it a lot easier. And then just building the connections.
And I want to just say, and I want to put this on the record, but education and mothering is collaborative. And it's always been collaborative. Teachers are collaborative by nature. caring for children has always been collaborative. We're just recalling something that we've forgotten for a long time. We've been in a state of amnesia where we feel like we need to compete with each other, and we don't. And it actually works so much better if we are awakened, really feeling super firm on what our offering is by supporting each other and reminding each other of our greatness, and showing up to our open houses together and just rooting for each other, liking, sharing, posting, subscribing, whatever that looks like for you. But that collaboration is not new. What is very fascinating to me, though, is that this movement that is happening right now. Delina, can I just call you out? How many children do you have?
6.
Delina has 6. I have 3. Tony has 3. I didn't mean to speak for you. But it's ran by mothers and it's ran by teachers. So it's going to look much different than what we have currently as the model of education. I know we're talking about long lasting and sustainability. We firmly believe that non-competitive collaboration is a vehicle for that. But I also think that they've awakened the mama bears now, and I don't think the world is quite understanding. Like, you've poked the mamas now, and we will work 18 hours a day for our babies, right? And so I think that those two things paired, like the nature of who we are as humans is actually to be quite collaborative, and we're just offering the framework for that to thrive.
So, yeah, so all of us started, I think, pretty much what we're doing out of a need for our community or a need for our own children. So, so I just wanted to take a minute for each of us to talk about, what was the need that we saw and why did we start this? We did talk a little bit about the need not to be, alone. But in our communities, what is the current need and what do you think the collaboration helps?
So I like how you guys referenced the idea of referring families to each other's schools. One of the services that we provide with WISE is that we have a really great directory on our website, and we have all of the creative learning environments listed there. And we're working on even building it out with the filter so that families can look for specifically if you want a 2-day-a-week program or you're looking for a nature-based school or a faith-based school. We'll have all of those options, and we are so for the success of each other. It's a non-competitive community. And to me, that's so refreshing. I don't know in what other marketplace you're really going to find much of that. Specifically, I think in the school environment and sometimes in the homeschool co-op environment, it can be very territorial, wait a minute, we're the best. And that's just not the culture of this movement, which has been so refreshing. And I think one of the things that, one of the factors there is that we want the overall movement of these creative learning environments, non-traditional schools, to thrive. We want this movement to grow more than we just want our own program to be promoted and for that to grow. I feel like sometimes it just takes a little bit of picking your head up and looking around and seeing what's happening across the country and what families are looking for and what's happening in the public school system. All of those things put together motivates us and spurs us on to be like, wait a minute, okay, so maybe my program's not the best for this person or that person, but overall this is a good thing and we need to just support. So offering support, sharing, doing the referral kind of thing, that's been something that was just a missing piece. We didn't have that. Everybody was not even really marketing their own businesses or schools very well either. It's all word of mouth and kind of, grassroots stuff. But now we're able to offer a lot more, raising awareness of their program for them.
I think, too, we're from very different areas. She said she's more rural, we're more urban. We have ESAs and school choice in Florida. You don't?
No.
So in Florida, I just put this up here. This was just up the other day that we set a new education choice record at 1.7 students being able to choose this year since our ESAs came out. So there's definitely in South Florida, we have too many students and not enough edupreneurs. So So hopefully by having a network, we're cultivating that confidence to step out and do something and to meet those needs. So that's something that I really saw as a need for a network. And we always joke back and forth. She's like, "Do you ever sleep?" And I ask her the same thing. She's out of school 5 days a week. We're doing a program 3 days a week. I'm like, at least I have 2 days of quiet. And I might be working in the office, but I have 2 days of quiet. And so all of us are doing something different. And it's pretty amazing. And I believe our community is better for that. You have so many options, so many things as a parent. You can look for something your kid's interested in, and pretty much in South Florida we have it. So we're super blessed, and there's room to grow. There's no need to compete. So I don't know.
I think the other need we're filling is like visibility and storytelling. I think that was a really important, especially when you feel like a silo and then you find other people, that's amazing. And then I think the aspect that we're working on is making sure that people know. So we have marketplaces for people to come and see. Like you were saying in the back there, the micro school showcase, right? We just did our very first InEd Live conference. We had over 2,400 people there, and it was an incredible conference. We learned so much, and we also understood that we can no longer do conferences as mamas without our babies, and so it was a conference with children, and there were tracks for kids to be able to like do art and theater and fishing and touching frogs and all these different, and dancing and stuff like that. And so we want to be able to provide a space where we can increase our as entrepreneurs, increase our visibility, make sure that our children themselves are taken care of and in the community. Like one of mine goes to a micro school for neurodivergence. My daughter, my oldest, is deaf and hard of hearing and autistic. So she goes to a micro school that specifies in that. My youngest is a dancer, so she is homeschooled, and she goes to one of our providers in ed, dance and theater throughout the week. And then my middle is me, with more rules. She's about the bottom dollar at the end of the day. And so we're seeing visibility is really important. Storytelling is really important. Community connection. And then the last is the policy piece, making sure that our voices are heard. Specifically with space, and that shifted. InEd doesn't do lobbying, but InEd members have pulled their money together to get a lobbyist, so that we were able to lift some of the space restrictions, which included fire and safety, not fire and safety. That did not change. Health department restrictions, some zoning restrictions, and that you could open a micro school in a church, in a community center, in, what am I missing there? Libraries, that you could have a designation as a private school within these specific places to keep our overhead down. And by having a united front, we were able to lobby and change legislation, which is just a reminder of how powerful we are when we have like, I think of us as like Horton Hears a Who, like the little who's on the little flower, and we're like, we're here, change the law so we can still be here. And that collaboration made that possible by being able to hire, I put some money in, someone else put money in, and collectively we were able to get a lobbyist, which really changed the trajectory of what is possible, not just for us, but really for everybody in Florida.
Yeah, and so in Florida we have ESA funding. Definitely there's a need. There's parents that want something different. Parents are looking for personalized education. I'm about 5 to 10 minutes from Stoneman Douglas. We had, so school safety and mental well-being is really big. And educators are looking for something new. And then we're just super blessed to have a variety of unique providers. So even with the ESAs, I think one thing about visibility is a lot of families don't know it exists still. So we're able to actually get the word out. Did you know there's funding for this, and that you can actually be able to choose for your child? So I think we're in a really unique situation. And then I know that as far as Delina, they're still fighting for that. So I think we have a voice.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. I like the comparisons here between where we're at. We have totally different landscapes in our states. So they already have the ESAs passed and they're in the implementation stage, and they're showcasing the success of these various models and what this is looking like. And I'm on the other end with, I guess they call it like priming the state to be ready for school choice policies, and it's just to show the need and to highlight, like, look how many families are looking for something different. Look at these high quality schools that are set up and ready to start receiving these students if they can afford to come to their program. And a lot of, that's just a lot, again, my mission and goal is to help with low cost but high quality schools, because in specifically coming from the homeschool world, I know that not every family can homeschool. Not every parent can do it, wants to do it, whatever. And yet they're still feeling so trapped. They feel like their only other option is a public school because they can't afford traditional private schools. And so that just kind of brings awareness for the need for ESAs. It's like families want it. They want another option. They would love to be able to use those funds and go find the school that fits their family and aligns with their values and all of those things. So I'm kind of in that space of just looking at, telling everybody, and we invite policymakers, we invite the state, Stand Together, State Policy Network group. So our local policy group there is called Kansas.
You're surrounded by
Kansas Policy Institute, right?
So
But we just try to invite people to, see what's going on and raise awareness of that in hopes that someday we'll have some school choice options in our state.
yeah, this was just talking about challenges and learning from mistakes. So although I think the network's great, being an entrepreneur is tough. And regardless if we want to say like there's no competition, sometimes there is. And it's not always perfect. There's been times where there's been conflicts in the network, or we've felt like that competitive aspect has come in a little bit. So I wanted to challenge you two too. What are some of the lessons that you learned from mistakes by doing this?
Oh my goodness. So the keynote just a minute ago, they were so laid out, well planned, structured, like, here's the process. I'm like, who has done that? Like, none of us. I mean, we just started serving families. Our passion and our motivation has driven us to this point of starting something that we don't know anything about what we're doing or how to operate a business or a school. So, I mean, I feel like that was just so out of reach. I mean, in my group and the network that we have, we are just doing it on the fly. We see the need, we're meeting the need. We're the ones stepping up to do it. Maybe there are some qualified business owners and operators or qualified, school admins out there who would be like, oh no, step, A, B, C, and D. And it's like, but they're not the ones stepping up to do this. It's the moms and it's, the passionate people, the community leaders who are saying, no, there's a need. I'm going to figure something out. I do want to give a shout out. They're not in this room, but there are these two incredible ladies I met just yesterday. They're right here in the Kennesaw area, and their names are Teresa and Carol, and they're from Kennesaw here. They are starting a school for their grandchildren. So they are motivated. Like, they see that their own kids cannot homeschool their grandkids. And so they were like, you know what? We'll do it. And they said, and if we're doing it, why don't we invite more families? It makes me want to cry. But
Yes.
Those are the people who are stepping up to do this. And they're here and they're like, so what do we need to do? And it's not like they had this well thought out plan and the strategy and things like that. I see value in that for sure, but that's just not how this movement is happening.
Yeah, I think I have a question. How many of you have a micro school or are starting one in here? So I'm curious, how many of you, when you started, said, hey, I'm going to start this big micro school, I'm going to have all these students? Were any of you planning for it to go the way it went? I'm curious because I always joke like we didn't mean to start a business. It just happened out of a need
Yeah.
for our community and our own kids, and so I think that's really true. And so I just listed a few of the challenges we face as edupreneurs too, and just a couple of things that I know all of us deal with as a network. Definitely compliance, financial sustainability. I mean. Recruitment of staff. So we've been able to share staff now, which is great because we're a 3-day-a-week program, and I can't give them full time, so I'm able to share some staff. And then marketing and enrollment. How do you do that? What websites are you using? We're able to market each other. Facilities and infrastructure we're working on trying, and then parental engagement and expectations. How is that different? So these are just a few of the things that we've dealt
And the really neat thing about collaboration in regards to like what are the challenges we're facing is that when we get in a room together and we start talking about it and they're like, oh, this is bigger. I thought I was the only one who was struggling with this. And someone else says it to one of them, like more often than not, somebody is like, I've been thinking I really want to put this together. Like if I created a template for you guys for your parent handbook, would that be helpful? And everybody's like, yes, please do that. So just certain things.
So not reinventing the wheel all the time.
Exactly. And it makes us all aware of like the overall need. Another example is that like myself and two of my closest friends, we had her brother is a software developer. And we realized like, man, these microschool founders, like as they're starting out, they need a platform for this learning management system for their students to track assignments and for teachers to communicate with parents. How do we do the enrollment and the billing and all these things? And so he's putting it together. He's building it for us out of the need that we're seeing and that we talk about in our meetings. So it's kind of cool because we continue to solve problems collectively.
And I just wanted to say also that Delina, Tony, and I have had conversations. We're like, how do you do it? Well, Tony knows how to do conferences, but we've asked each other, like, how do you run a network? Just to having them together to be able to say, okay, how do we do this? How many times should we really meet? Is quarterly enough? Is it not enough? Has it been exhausting to do webinars? You're doing a podcast now. How is that fitting into your schedule? And just like, what equipment did you buy?
How do you do that with 5 kids?
Yeah,
Or
it's
6 kids.
six.
You have 6 kids. Okay.
And so just having those just the testimonials from just even on the network level, we need each other. Like I don't think it ever ends where you need community and collaboration, regardless of where you're at in the network or what you're doing in your life. Like I need Delina all the time and I need Tony all the time. And so that doesn't change. We just learn how to ask for help, really.
And really with what's happening across the nation in education, it's been so valuable to hear from others, my friends in other states. And like Jamie Buckland here on the front row from West Virginia is like a pioneer in this whole thing. And when I connected with her and learned about all of her experience, I'm like, okay, we need to connect. I need to pick your brain. We need to let me learn from your experience. And it's just so important. And that's going to continue to happen, especially when you look at the map and you see the green states and you see all the white states. The white states, we need to be paying attention to the green states, and we need to find the person in that state who's doing the work and making this stuff happen and say, listen, I think this is about to blow up in Kansas. Probably not quite as soon as I would hope, but this is going to happen. I want to be prepared. What's your advice? And that sort of thing. So that's another element of collaboration that happens. Would that be interstate?
Yeah.
Interstate, yeah.
And so, I love quotes. So this one's from Franklin Roosevelt. It talks about competition has been shown to be useful up to a certain point and no further, but cooperation, which is a thing we must strive for today, begins where competition leaves off. So I think it's such a beautiful thing to watch entrepreneurs collaborating and being cooperative and growing this space. So I guess the celebration, we shared a little bit of what has worked, but there's a few ways that we've seen, this collaboration changing our communities. So I would love for you two to share and I'll share what's,
I think I'll just mention a couple of things. We've been able to do some conferences in Kansas and partnering with our Kansas Policy Institute. Carrie McDonald has come out. She's done amazing work. She did a research piece with both South Florida and Wichita. Was that last year? That paper?
2022.
Okay.
Really?
Okay.
Wow.
So bringing in people like Carrie who's telling the story and hosting events. So actually Eric Warren has come out. So we did a regional conference. We're at the national conference. We had one in the Heartland. So in Kansas City, Kansas, we were able to partner with Kansas Policy Institute, the Vela Education Fund, and then Kennesaw State came out to us. So I think it's really important. Again, I really like local collaborating. I love meeting there face-to-face in person. It's hard. A lot of our people, we have maybe 5 people from Kansas who were able to make it out here. But I think it's important that we have things within our own state. And that's one of the benefits. So we have another one coming up this fall. We've also participated in like the National School Choice Week events and helped to raise awareness in our state of micro schools and hybrid schools and things like that. What else have we done? I don't know what else. I'll pass it to Shireen while we're waiting.
So I think on May the 4th be with you, so you can remember that. InEd Sarasota is opening up. We had the InEd Live conference, and from that they felt what it means to be in collaboration and community with each other. And I don't want to operate, I don't know anything about Sarasota, but I'm happy to show you the framework so that you can open your own chapter. And really it just comes from, let's have a dinner. Let's just get together. And so on May the 4th, they'll be launching their very first chapter of InEd, and I think the bigger picture for us then is to really have a collective voice on. South Florida is a large territory. We have 120 providers? 120 providers, 8,000 students. And so, collectively we'll have 10,000 students this next year. And then when Orlando opens, we'll be able to go in with 50,000 students into wherever we need to and say, you need to lower your prices, or you need to give us, you need to change this, the bathroom laws need to change, or whatever that looks like. We'll have a collective voice to be able to really make some larger impacts. And so that's really exciting for us. So yeah, I'm just going to be an observer. Actually, they've gotten everything together. They're ready to roll. And yeah.
So we're going to get all the who's in Whoville to
all
shout.
the who's in Whoville.
No, so I think, yeah, like Shireen said too, even in our state, there's so many different communities, and every community has a unique need. So it's really important as a community, who's next door to you, and what are your needs there locally, and that's going to be different around the country. So these little small networks and hubs are really vital. And yeah, we've been able to share best practices, to do professional development and training, do advocacy and policy influence, marketing, but we wouldn't have been able to do that without organizations collaborating with us, and people like Carrie telling the story, State Policy Network, Vela being able to do stuff with us, stand together. There's so many great organizations that have come and poured into us as well. And so we couldn't do that without that. And today I was sitting at a table with somebody who's starting a micro school, and they didn't know about all the resources available. And so we have this knowledge, and it would be unfair not to share that with other people.
Totally.
So those are just a couple of the things that as a group, I think all of us have been able to do. We can glean from each other's knowledge. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We're able to focus in and hone on certain communities and what's needed. And I think it's been nothing but a blessing.
Can I say one thing that you
Yeah.
made me think of? So I think sometimes we can feel like we're so small. I only have 5 families, or I just don't know that I'm going to have that kind of impact. But I wish Missy were in here from West Virginia. She's a micro school founder, and I kind of have the same thing kind of going on in West Virginia. But the difference that it could make, the difference that your work could make if you just step out and try to offer this type of support. I texted Missy. She knew about the YOS prize, which is this $1 million prize, for founders or whatever. And I had told Missy about it, but the night that it was due, I texted Missy and I said, did you get your application in? And she's like, oh my goodness, I've forgotten. And she completed her application. And then they were one of the semifinalists. And
Oh,
she
that's
got
awesome.
$100,000.
Yes.
And so it's like, what resource could your network introduce someone to?
Yeah.
Right.
And
And that,
your work could have.
skip this, sorry.
I mean, it
I'm
completely
gonna skip that
changed,
and
they were
do it at
able
the
to
end.
do an expansion, it completely changed things for them. So I think sometimes we feel like it's a drop in the bucket,
Mm-hmm.
but those drops add up.
They
Those
do,
drops
and-
add up.
Yeah, and I think, definitely, like, there's definitely more power in all of us speaking. So we're up against these big public schools and this monopoly, like they're talking about our government. So the only way it's going to make a difference is if we're collectively using a voice. So the next one we were going to talk about is just some action steps. How do you start those in your community? Whether you do, something like WISE or Innovative Educators Network. So what are a few steps?
I'll share a few really tiny baby steps, the practical things with getting started. I used this thing called Google Maps, and I just did a search and I typed in these keywords: tutoring, after school programs, learning, education, school, all of these types of words, because I was like, who's doing what? And actually, so what spurred me on and helped was I felt really validated once I received a Vela Education grant. I received their micro grant, and I was like, wait a minute, this is like, it seemed too good to be true. And I was like, I have got to tell people. I literally looked up people just to tell them about the Vela Education Fund. And I was like, this is something you need to apply for. And in reaching out to these individuals, some of them were just like, and some of them I knew word of mouth or people who were doing different things, but they were like only serving like 5 families. And they said, we don't feel like we're doing anything big or anything important. So that's kind of how I got started. I just looked them up, called them up and said, hey, this is what I'm doing out in Partridge, Kansas. I heard about what you're doing. You want to meet for coffee? And in doing that, it was just like, do you know Katie down the road? And they'd say, no, there's another person doing something like this. I'm like, yeah, there's like 20 of us. So it was a natural thing to start meeting together then from there.
Yeah, just get together, have a coffee, have a meeting. That's what started with Tony and I. She and I like to eat. I love to eat. That's like my favorite thing. But just having a meal together with people, breaking bread and just being together. That was a great step. Offering, I think some of the activities we do are like, in which sphere there's really great operational people, and there are really great visionary people. There are really great marketing people, and they're really great like education focused, like curriculum. That's kind of where I land. And so we can lean on each other for what do we need? There's Ms. Suarez who runs Compass Outreach in South Florida. She is an amazing operationals person. She knows the law. She knows which section and how to do the things you got to do with a wink and a smile. And she's like, oh, have your fire thing done on Tuesday because Corey's the fire guy on Tuesday. Don't do your fire thing on Thursday. If you won't pass your fire thing on Thursday. Make the appointment for Tuesday. And so I'm like, okay, Tuesday for Thursday, And so she really knows. And then leaning on her for some of those operational school openings. She opened over, I want to say 50 charter schools. So she's opened a lot of charter schools. So she understands how to open a school. I know how to make amazing curriculum. So anybody who needs that will ask, how do I do this kind of work? So just knowing where your wheelhouse is too.
And that's kind of the find key partners and stakeholders to support the journey of your community, that part over there. I just noticed up there from your slide, the support each other through celebration of each other's successes. This has been a really fun part of our network. For example, we had one of our school founders had a baby, and it's we just had a diaper shower for her, and we all collectively blessed her with that. We had one of our founders who got a new building for their school, and we had an open house, a housewarming, and brought her plants and things. And then even the celebrations are wonderful, but sometimes the loss, just grieving with others who are grieving when they're going through a hard time and celebrating the good times has been a really, really special part of what we do as well. But I also wanted to, because I mentioned just kind of baby steps for how you can get started. And one approach is kind of that cold calling, Google and just make the call. The other thing, I want to give a shout out to Becky McNichols, who's back here. She's amazing. She's in Kansas as well. And she's like a sister network to WISE, and they are in the Kansas City area. And she basically reached out to me from after this conference last year and kind of did the cold call thing, but she's really good about looking on social media and in Facebook groups and seeing like who's in Kansas, who's doing what. So that's another way that you can identify, kind of locate people who are, similar passion,
And
but might have
there's
diverse
a ton
backgrounds.
of Facebook groups for homeschool families, for micro schools, and there are several other networks that you can look up. Also, Vela has the Mighty Networks community. You can search by your location and find who's near you. So every time we do a meetup, I find somebody new that we didn't know about, which is great. And so that's been amazing to use that as well. But I like the Google Maps thing too. That's great. Okay, so I think we just wanted to really encourage you to write down one way that you'll dive deeper in collaboration this year, and then we're open for any questions anybody has. Should we show the video first? Do you want to show the video? It's a couple minutes, right? We're going to show a video real quick that we're working on for South Florida. This is just a trailer.
It's almost done. What we're shifting away from is worker bees into more self-actualized people who are able to contribute to society.
We have this opportunity to really, really cultivate a life for our children that's meaningful.
When I was in public school, everybody walked around with anger and hate. There was a lot of fights and violence.
When you're a mom, you start to really look at systems and go, what's going on here and why?
Our education system's outdated. We're teaching towards an old form of the industrial age when students were taught to sit at a desk, work on assembly lines for hours a day.
There's more time spent in the US on testing and learning.
You're testing these kids to get kind of an idea where they're at, but every single kid learns differently.
We really wanted our children to have that old world family feel of what education might have used to been like.
It's so easy for kids to get caught up in public school on just passing and just getting by with the basics.
I feel like I've learned a lot more than the years I've gone to any other school.
We have students that are 5 and 6 and learning how to code and do robotics and programming and building websites and growing gardens.
We found microschooling, and it was just right because it catered to the academic self and it catered to the natural self.
At this time, we are all underground as these little seedlings coming out of our cocoon. And we are just reaching out. We are from the ground up, just reaching to the sky. And I know we're going to grow into these amazing bouquet of flowers and amazing vegetables that are just going to feed society. It's almost done. It's almost done. It's coming soon.
I have a question. So I hopefully can open a micro school in the fall.
You will.
Well, I'm not a mom, and I'm not, well, I have a stepdaughter, but I'm not doing it for my kids. You all are, and you're talking a lot about like your collaborative community, a lot about moms who have started their micro school. In the work that you have done now, how often do you encounter just, I am an educator, I'm an early childhood educator, how often do you encounter just educators who just, don't want to do it for their own children, but for like other kids? Do you see that a lot or not really?
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually think this is a more sustainable place because educators are born. This is how we come into the world as these amazing educators. What I'm fearful for, and I've vocalized this before, is that people who are opening for their children when their children are beyond school age, that they might not still have the passion for it. For like teachers, we're gonna be doing this forever. You know, like this is what we are here to do. We're here to serve families. We're here to serve young people, and in that process of learning with young people. Whether my children go to my school forever, I'm still gonna have my school, and so I think that actually is gonna. I think it's going to be the saving grace of the micro school movement. I think moms are starting it. I think the hardest thing for teachers to do is to leave the system. It's frightening for sure, especially with like the golden handcuffs of like retirement. That's not even for many people a really comprehensive retirement plan. Healthcare. Some districts do have awesome healthcare, but those things are absolutely possible with like 30 kids on your caseload versus 150 or or
And as
or
a
10.
network, you're able to,
Yeah.
like, we're able to pull resources to be able to do that stuff. So
Yeah.
we haven't, I don't think any of us have gotten there yet, but how do we provide, retirement, options and 401ks as a group? I mean, is that possible? And to do insurance as a group, I think that's a possibility.
I just want to also speak from a homeschool mom perspective. I actually am not like Shireen in this. I am not a gifted educator. And that's really like been painful to realize as a homeschool mom who's taken on this desire. I just feel really called to do this for my kids and not qualified. And can I do it? Yeah, to some extent, but are there more gifted teachers? Yes, they are the ones I'm looking for to help me teach and homeschool my kids. And so in the subjects and the areas that I can't teach, we need you. And so there's definitely a huge place for qualified educators or passionate educators. So
And the last thing I'll say about that is I don't think they're quite ready to see, but they're going to have to see what happens when teachers are unleashed and we're able to have the classroom that we know is possible for our kids, that we've been fighting hard. We're going to school board meetings, fighting for, trying to get access and resources. And we're the people that will take our paycheck to buy crayons and markers for our kids, right? Like we show up. And so I'm super excited to see what teachers are going to do because I don't think they even understand what happens in a school and what teachers are capable of, and they're about to learn. So
it's like they poked the mama bear and the teachers. It's like, watch out.
I think she has a question back there.
Actually, on the network side, I heard earlier that there are other micro schools that are under your umbrella, and also, so I was wondering if this is a special accreditation or like national accreditation or a local, like anything that you can share about how that works?
Yeah, so Colossal Academy has its own education model that is going through the critique, of Cognia. So I have to justify all of the learning for accreditation. It's really just a translation of work that we're doing between one language to another, right? Like we have a lot of, social emotional learning is also like nap time. We do nap time at our school, but I'm going to call it social emotional for your paperwork, right? So, quiet time, we use soft voices and all that other. So it's really translating our model into an accreditation. So the model itself is accredited. So for us, when you open a Colossal, you come in accredited. There's a few reasons I chose to do that. Most of my learners are not homeschooling families that are now seeking a larger platform. They're actually coming out of system. A lot of people are from the public school moving to this place, right? And it's softer. It's softer on the families that are just like, you're gonna canoe on Fridays? What? You're gonna surf and skate? Are they learning anything? Right? Like, so that for the families, and I serve the families, right? And so if that's what they need to feel comfortable, we're gonna climb trees. And that is called Section 41315, whatever it needs to be. And that was just a very conscious thing on my side. I don't really feel like accreditation is a validator for me. I know that my kids are learning. I know what's happening in my classroom, but for families, they do. And then it also helps them to explain. We have families coming from all different backgrounds, and when they go home for Thanksgiving, And they're like, my kid is in a tree all day and they're learning lots. And it's like, no, but they are learning a lot of things. And look, it's accredited, right? Like it really helps them to soften the blow of some of the like societal pressures, because it already takes a tremendous amount of strength and bravery to pull your child. And anybody who homeschools knows that. And teachers who have left any traditional know what it takes to like go into something alternative. And so for me, it was like lightening the blow. And then also, I don't want every single micro school that is a colossal to have to go through the accreditation process. It's also a waste of energy and time, in my opinion, and a waste of resources as well. So let me just do that for everybody so that we could just be done with this. And then you. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's a franchise. So then you would buy the model and you execute the model, and then you would automatically have accreditation. So I'm looking really for Indiana, who needs to be able to participate in the ESA. It's important for us that we're accessible at a tuition rate that's accessible. And so ESA states are my primary, Florida being the primary location that I'm looking at, and states that have ESA funding, so that we don't even need to spend energy and time. So that was important to me.
I think like part of the network I'm listening to Shireen is, she's a teacher by trade. She's serving kids that are coming out of regular system schools. Delina and I have homeschooled. My kids, we actually worked at a private school for years, and they've been to charter schools, and they've been through all of the gamut of stuff. But it's really neat to see, the homeschool co-op, to like us just having a program that we're very specific and what Shireen's doing. It's really, so we all learn from each other and what we're doing. But one of the things that really stood out to me today, just being here, is I was over at EdChoice earlier, and they did a study on why people are changing schools. And they didn't ask, why are you leaving? Why, what are some of the things that stood out of why you're changing schools? And by far, it was not academic. It was all social, emotional. I want my child to be happy. I want them to enjoy being at school. And I think that that's what this movement's doing, is allowing kids to be joyful, to enjoy learning, to become lifelong learners, and so I think that, that's the common thread with all of us, is that we're looking and I think teachers go into the field to educate for the same reasons. You want kids to find out what they're passionate about, what their purpose in life is, and to make a difference when they get older. Yeah, so I think we have one more minute. Any other questions?
Just structurally, how is InEd or WISE set up? Like, did you set it up as like a company, LLC, organization, or is it just kind of a volunteer meeting?
We're a nonprofit organization.
Okay.
Yeah, we're 501c3 nonprofit network. Yeah.
So I'm a homeschooling mom before, and I'm in my first year of my micro school, and I have another homeschooling mom on my team and a certified teacher who walks away from public school. How do you sort of get over the discomfort of leading a public school teacher? Because that sometimes feels like she knows a lot. She's amazing. And I want to hire another certified teacher too, but I don't always feel like super well versed in the world of micro school because nobody is. But how do you sort of lead a public school teacher when really her background is further along than yours?
In education, you're saying?
It's not further, it's just different.
It's just different. Yeah, it's translating, I would say. I also think there's a tremendous amount of deschooling I had to do. Like, they're not at grade level. Nobody's at grade level. Like, I had to take in a lot of what the homeschoolers were saying, and changing and shifting. Oh, hi, in Ed Sarasota. Hey. We had to, were you here the whole time? No. Oh, okay. I was just like, what? Yeah, there's a process of deschooling that we have to, or what are they calling it? Deschooling, right? Mm-hmm. That we have to go through, to also say, you're coming in with a whole set of beautiful attributes that you're understanding about children. We're coming in from a different route and avenue, and so those two things, when they're partnered together, create so much harmony together. Rigor and academia and parenting and real world, and those two paired together are dynamite. And so, you have to let that certified teacher let them know that there might be a process of deschooling here. This is how we do it. This is how we do it. we're happy to accept your help, but this is how we do it.
Hybrid for like 7 years, and I have no higher education, and over half of my staff were certified teachers, and the other half were like doctors and attorneys and what have you, and yet the one without the degree was like running the entire show. And what I found that consistently made things healthy for us was open feedback and communication. Like I was very intentional at making sure I listened to their voice and their feedback, and tried to do it in a communal way so that they could share, but then also like I'm running the show.
Yeah,
So,
I'm the boss here. Yeah.
So I think we're a minute over.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.